The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Running Point. Hello. Digging my the hoodie that the wonderful folks at Crestview gave me and Larry for broadcasting the Rebels games this year. Digging the hoodie that they got us. Many thanks to Mr. Perry and Coach Perry, excuse me, and some of the other folks that got these hoodies for Larry and I for doing the Crestview Sports this year for YSN. So proudly repping the Rebels gear today. All right, it is a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. If you're in the market for a brand new or slightly used automobile, you do need to check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. After all, they got a great sales department, terrific finance department, and a service department that cannot be beat. And let's face it, to have a great car dealership, you must be great in these three facets. Kind of like a great football team. You got to have a great offense, a great defense, and great special teams in order to be a great football team. Well, in order to be a great car dealership, you got to have a sales department, finance department, and a service department, and Greenwood Chevrolet has all three, and all three of those departments are outstanding. So if you are in the market for a brand new or slightly used automobile, do check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of high school basketball last night. Girls hoops were the story, although we did get some boys hoops into the fray last night, especially from two teams that hadn't played very much this year. East and Howland both were the victims, I should say, of COVID, and we've made mention of this. You know, the city schools, Cheney and East, and the Trumbull County schools had been shut down for much of December. They got an awful lot to make up. So, and we made mention there's going to be some teams that are going to be playing some games, boys basketball, where you would normally see girls basketball being played. And there's going to be some girls basketball teams that will play some games where you would normally see boys basketball being played. And that's okay, as long as you get your league games in. And, you know, like I said, minimum 18 games. If you can get 18 games in, you're ready to go come tournament time. So we'll get to the high school basketball talk, both on the boys' side as well as the girls' side. By the way, that truck that you saw rambling down the street with a couple of remnants of Buckeyes, yeah, that was the Alabama offense last night. I think everyone now can officially sit back and say Alabama Incorporated is the best college football team. It's not even close. They are the best college football team, period. And it's not even close. I'm stunned that Alabama could have put 60 on Ohio State last night. It seemed like they didn't want to play in the second half. They were just like, We get this one under control. No big deal. It was kind of a remnant of the Notre Dame game, to be honest with you. Alabama could have scored a hell of a lot more than 31 points on the Notre Dame defense. And they just said, we're tired of fiddle-faddling around with this team. 31 to 14. It was an by the way touchdown. Yeah, okay, we're good with these guys. Same thing last night. Alabama could have scored 60 on Ohio State. Make no mistake about this. They were just like, we've got this under control. No need to move any further. 52 to 24. Oof. It was a big time beatdown. And I didn't think it was going to be this bad, but I had made mention. Ohio State played that game against Clemson with a lot of personal stuff. That game against Clemson was personal because the Buckeyes had never beaten Clemson in the history of their program. And then you've got Dabo being Dabo, saying stupid stuff. And Ohio State just said, well, we're going to take this out on you guys personally. They didn't have that with Alabama because Nick Saban's not stupid. Nick Saban's not going to be saying anything. Now his daughter did, but who cares? She's not roaming on the sidelines. She doesn't have anything to do with the program. Alabama's just head, shoulders, knees and toes better than anybody in college football, and that's just the end of that. The Southeastern Conference, good God, that was amazing last night. Absolutely amazing. Here's the scary part. The kid that got over 200 yards, was it Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner? He's either going to go to the New York Jets or the Miami Dolphins and wreak havoc on the AFC East. Wow. What a performance. What a performance last night that I saw. And Larry Scragg, he and I did the game last night. Liberty and Crestview. Leopards knock off the Lady Rebs 65-51. Big story in this game. Liberty has a basketball team that is filled with freshmen. Just filled with a bunch of freshmen. They're 3-1 on the campaign. They've played nothing but league games right now. They're 3-1 in the Mahoning Valley Athletic Conference gray tier. And I would imagine that they'll play the 12 games in the gray tier. They'll probably pick up some non-conference games, and we'll go from there. This Liberty team will have everybody back next year, and all but 2 or 3 kids the following year. This is a really, really good Liberty basketball team. I made the comment last night that in a year or two, this is a basketball team. If they continue to work hard in the offseason and take the program seriously and not just be there without doing any work in the offseason, and they're just going to just show up when basketball practice starts. They're not going to do anything to prepare themselves for the practice. Look, in order to be a successful program in any sport, you got to play the sport in the offseason. You got to practice the sport in the offseason. If the Liberty girls basketball team takes this sport seriously, this is a state championship caliber basketball team in a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years down the road. Before these freshmen graduate from high school, if this freshman class, and I had 14 kids on the team, and I want to say 10 of them were freshmen. And a lot of the freshmen saw varsity time last night. The majority of the freshmen saw varsity time last night because there's only 14 kids in the entire basketball program. A lot of these kids not only played JV, they played varsity as well. So there's only 14 kids in the program. JV, varsity combined, 14 kids. And most of the 14 kids are playing both junior varsity and varsity. And I think that 10 of the 14 kids are freshmen. If this freshman class makes a pact to take basketball seriously and to, as a group, try to be the best that they can be, before they graduate from high school, they will have either played or won a state championship game. They're that good. This was scary. How prepared they were. The basketball skills for just freshmen. Oh dear God, this was a scary team. There's a lot of talent up in the northern part of Youngstown in the Liberty School District. There is a really, really talented program up there. And like I said, if they play and take the game seriously, and as the group of 10 of them, if they all decide, hey, we're gonna take this seriously, we're going to work in the off season, we're going to be spending a lot of time in the park shooting hoops and perfecting our game and whatnot, I guarantee you, before they graduate from high school, they'll have either played in Dayton, Columbus, wherever the hell the state tournaments are going to be held in the next 3 or 4 years, or they're going to win a state championship. They're either going to be going there in the state finals, state semifinals. Yeah, the Final Four in basketball, if for the girls or the boys, it's you go down to Columbus or you go down to Dayton in the Final Four. We haven't seen a boys basketball team go to Columbus since Peyton Aldridge led LeBray, and I want to say that's now coming up on 9 years. I think 2011, 2012 was the last time that we had a boys team go down to Columbus. Last year, the West Branch girls went to Columbus, and everyone knows what happened 16 minutes before the game was supposed to start, or at least the starting lineups and all the pageantry that goes with that. They took the kids off the floor because we went into COVID hell and haven't been the same since, to be honest with you. But last night I saw a team that they can play. Oh, my God, can they play? And they're just freshmen by and large. And there's 14 kids on the team, no seniors. I think there's 2 or 3 juniors, 1 sophomore, and 10 seniors. I'm sorry, 10 freshmen. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And they run the fast break like no one's business. And Crestview was just not able to adjust. 32 minutes of the game, and they weren't able to adjust to the fast break. It was a sight to see. Liberty knocking off Crestview last night, 65-51. I don't know, and I'm going to have to reach out to my Leetonia brethren on this one. First and foremost, thoughts and prayers to Tara Ferry, who was in the hospital recently and had some surgery. She's out for a while, and the Bears won last night, beating Lisbon 50-40. I don't know if this is accurate or not. If it is, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a school record. Samantha Schneider, it says this in the box score. I'm going to have to reach out to Coach Ritz on this one. Samantha Schneider ripped down 23 rebounds in the victory over Lisbon. Got a double-double, 11 points, 23 rebounds. If that's true, I'm almost positive that's a new school record at Leetonia for most rebounds in a game. Ella Gregorino, who is the best sophomore that 99% of you have never heard of, scored 24 points last night. And the Bears improved their record to 6-3, getting a 10-point victory over Lisbon. Speaking of Lisbon, last night, the Blue Devils boys, they lost to Heartland 66-54. Lisbon's second loss of the season. The story in this game was the fact that Ryan McCullough scored 22 points, and in doing so, jumped over 1,000 points in his career. Ryan has been an unbelievable athlete in Lisbon. Not only is he a fantastic basketball player, he is also a really, really good football player as well. And I know his family quite well. His grandfather was one of West Branch's greatest running backs in the heyday of their program prior to the OHSAA playoffs. Joe Wilson, and Joe and his wife Kathy They had their children, and they all went to Leetonia. So Annie and oh god, now I'm gonna be blanking out on names. Annie, Sarah, and Joe Jr. all graduated from Leetonia. Well, Annie moved to Lisbon, and Ryan is Annie's son, and he's a hell of a basketball player. He's a hell of an athlete. Period. He's one of the better athletes in Columbiana County. He scored 22 last night, got over 1,000 points. Congratulations to him. Just a fantastic way to start continuing his senior season at Lisbon. And I've made mention of this, not just because we have someone here at YSN land that happens to be one of the assistant coaches. I'm saying this because it's true. Lisbon, and it's going to be this year, but in the next 4 years, Lisbon basketball is going to be synonymous with district contending championship. They will be contending for a district championship, whether it's the normal D4 Struthers district tournament or the two districts combined into one that we're hearing about happening this year, which will follow suit with all the fall sports. And I don't know, maybe this is something that is going to be happening from here on out. I honestly don't know what the OHSAA is going to do about this. My guess is this is going to be happening from now on, that you'll combine two districts into one supersized district. Be that as it may, for the next 4-5 years, Lisbon is going to be a district championship contender, where it's not going to surprise me that every single year for the next 4 to 5 years, Lisbon's playing in the district semifinals, because they're going to be good. Oh, my God, are they going to be good. Even when their two seniors, McCullough and Brownfield, both leave, there's going to be plenty of talent replacing those two kids. But they lost last night to Heartland, 66-54. Heartland improves their record to 8-3 on the campaign, and Lisbon is 6-2. You want to talk about an interesting basketball program? You talk about Heartland Christian. Now, this is being done, and there's a pretty good reason why Heartland is able to have a varsity team, a junior varsity team, a freshman team, a fully stocked 8th grade team, and a fully stocked 7th grade team. And one of the big reasons why Heartland Christian has a basketball program that, as a former basketball coach, I would love to have. And as a former basketball coach, and obviously we love football. All of us love football around these parts, and let's be honest, football is the engine that, it's the engine that drives sports in the state of Ohio. Football is king. Always has been, always will be. However, one of the things that this area has to come to grips with in order to have a great basketball program is having a basketball program that is fully stocked from varsity to youth. And one of the things that is missing in about 90+% of the schools is the freshman team. You have a lot of freshmen inserted into junior varsity basketball, which isn't a bad thing. It's not. It's not a bad thing at all. But in a perfect world, and Heartland Christian is able to do this because Heartland doesn't have football. So their boys in that school from grade 9 through grade 12 have but one big sport. Now, they do have baseball in the springtime, but football and basketball are supposed to be the two big sports. I'm going to put baseball in there, and obviously it should be because, well, I've been saying this, banging on this drum for the last 8 years. we're better at baseball than we are at football. Now, that's starting to change a little bit because more teams are starting to get into the state semifinals, the state championship game. Now, we have not been able to consistently get a private school, let alone a public school, into a state championship victory. But over the last couple of years, we have been able to get teams into the state championship game. So that's starting to, that whole thing is starting to shift a little bit, where we're now becoming a whole lot better in football. But baseball is still, over the last 8 years, we've had more representation in the state semifinals, more representation in the state finals, and more championship teams in baseball than we've had in football over the last 8 years. Now, that's, like I said, that's starting to change. But getting back to Heartland, you know, for the boys, the three major sports in high school, football in the fall, basketball in the winter, baseball in the spring. Well, Heartland doesn't have football. So they have two major sports, one in the winter, one in the spring. And because they only have two sports, they now have a fully stocked varsity team, a fully stocked junior varsity team, a fully stocked freshman team, a fully stocked 8th grade team, fully stocked 7th grade team, and a fully stocked youth basketball program. And for a Division IV school, I can count on one hand the amount of schools in Division IV that have this. And in a perfect world, that's something that every coach wants to have for his or her program. Where, okay, if the freshman is good enough to make the jump from freshman to JV or freshman to varsity, all right, that's fine. But I'm still going to have a freshman team, you know, and that's how we're going to do it. Now, many years ago, it's going to be 39 this year? Jesus. Oof. 39 years ago, this June, I graduated high school. But anyway, 36 years ago, freshman year in high school, we had a freshman basketball team. We had a freshman basketball team at Leetonia for the longest time, and then the numbers started falling backwards, and now, like a lot of programs, you don't have a freshman program. Now you have freshmen either playing varsity ball if they're good enough, or they're mainly playing JV ball. And if you're really in dire straits where you don't have many people out in your entire program, like Liberty Girls, you're going to have a lot of people playing JV basketball as well as varsity basketball, which isn't a horrible thing, but it leaves your program quite bare. Anyway, amazing what Heartland has been able to do. And again, without football, I mean, it's a lot easier to do this. And I wouldn't say that every team should be like, oh yeah, don't have football. No, that's crazy. That's absurd. But you know, if you talk to any basketball coach, and they will tell you, and if you might have to put some truth serum in them to get it out of them. But every basketball coach would tell you, in a perfect world, they want a fully stocked varsity, JV, freshman, 8th grade, 7th grade, and youth program, and have as many kids falling in love with a game of basketball to continue to make the program better and better and better and better. But like I said, Heartland is doing it right, and they're starting to reap the rewards. Halfway through the season, they're 8-3. This is a team that's Division IV. They are going to be a handful to deal with come tournament time. Believe that. East and Howland, they each played their third game of the season. And again, most of December, nada. No bueno. They weren't playing basketball. The Trumbull County Health Department said no to the Trumbull County schools, and Cheney and East were shut down. And again, no blame. I mean, it's obviously you had to do what you had to do. So East and Howland both played their third game, boys basketball last night. East getting the victory over Howland 44-43. One other game, actually, one other game. Shenango, and kudos to Badger for doing this. They went across the state line. Shenango High School, the Wildcats, they are a suburb of Newcastle. Actually, Newcastle has spawned off about 4 or 5 schools in the greater Newcastle area. You got Newcastle High School, Shenango, Neshannock, Laurel, and Mohawk are all schools that are very close to the city of Newcastle. So those are 5 schools, 4 of which stand on their own, and then you have Newcastle High School. But Western Pennsylvania, we made mention of this last week. Western Pennsylvania is in the same boat as Trumbull County and the 2 city schools, where they didn't play basketball the entire month of December, so those schools are starting to look for games as well, and I will continue to bang on this drum as well. I would implore, if you're looking for a non-conference game or a game to put on your schedule, I would implore any of our schools in Trumbull, Mahoning, and Columbiana counties to reach out to our fellow brothers and sisters in Western Pennsylvania, because I am here to tell you, basketball in Western PA, yeah, that's some fun stuff. Whether it's Mercer County, Lawrence County, or Beaver County, there is some really good basketball in Western PA, and it'd be kind of fun to watch our Ohio schools go up against some of the schools on the other side of the border. Last night, Badger played Shenango, and Shenango beat them 78-53. But kudos to Badger for getting a game. I mean, look, they're in Trumbull County. They need to get as many games as possible. Kudos to Badger for reaching out to a team in Western Pennsylvania. Good job. All right, last night, plenty of girls' basketball games. Fitch over East, 44-33. Ursuline knocked off Badger. Stowe Monroe Falls. Canfield scheduled Stowe Monroe Falls. That's a great game for Canfield in terms of scheduling. Now, they got beat 54-35, but Stowe Monroe Falls is a legit D1 basketball program. And that's just, obviously Canfield struggled, but that's just going to help the team out. And I'm a firm believer. Now, obviously, there's a fine line between strengthening your schedule and shattering the confidence of your kids. I don't prescribe, or would never prescribe, 22 ridiculously hard games for your kids, because, if your team gets beat in about 18 of those games, you've shattered your kids' confidence. But there is such a thing as sharpening your skills. There is such a thing as iron sharpens iron. And you don't have to play 22 really, really tough opponents, but if you play your league schedule and you sprinkle in about a third to a half of your non-conference schedule full of challenging programs, challenging teams that aren't necessarily, you're going to lose and you're going to lose ugly. You want to sprinkle those 25 to 33% of your schedule with teams that are going to challenge and test your program. Yeah, clearly that's what you want to do. Look, I've said this for a long time, and people may not agree with this, but it is an absolute fact. I would much rather have a basketball team 16-6 or 15-7 going into the tournament, and they've been tested, and they've been challenged, and they have played a really tough schedule. I'd much rather have that team than a team that finishes 20-2, 21-1, or 22-0 and had a schedule that's the equivalent of stepping over a Sunday newspaper. Because by and large, that 20-2 team, 21-1, 22-0, they might be able to win a few games, and they might be able to get into the district semifinals. They probably will. And if the district tournament isn't all that tough. They'll probably get into the district championship game, but after that, they're going to get beat. And they're going to get beat bad because you didn't challenge them. Well, there's something to be said for winning 20, 21, 22 games. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. Absolutely. That's it. Look, everyone loves to see a team like that, but you're not going anywhere if you didn't challenge your kids. You're just not going anywhere. At the end of the day, when you go up against a team that's played a really tough schedule, they're going to annihilate you. No two ways about it. So give me a team. And the beautiful thing with basketball in every sport, not named football, well, of course, this year you had every team invited to the tournament this year because of COVID, but under normal circumstances, not everyone gets into the tournament in football. It's impossible to play everyone into the tournament unless you lower your regular season games by 4 games. And we saw, 6 games, and then you went into the tournament. Obviously, next year, knock on wood, hopefully we don't have COVID issues like we've had this year. Knock on wood, you're going to have 12 teams in the tournament. This coming year, in the fall, the OHSAA made the decision that it's going to be the top 12 teams. So there'll be an extra week in the tournament. Top 4 seeds will have the first week off. 5 will play 12, 6 will play 11, 7, 10, 8, 9. You know the drill. The winner of 5 and 12 will take on the 4 seed. The winner of 6 and 11 will take on the 3 seed. The winner of 7 and 10 will take on the 2 seed. The winner of 8 and 9 will take on the 1 seed. And then we'll go from there. Unlike the National Football League, they're not reseeding to appease the top seed. They don't do that with the OHSAA, which is a good thing. Anyway, football's the only sport where only the elite, only the select few get into the tournament. Well, in every other sport, you're in the tournament. Whether you're 22-0 or 0-22, you're in the tournament. So why not challenge your kids? Why not get on board and say, okay, well, we have our league games, but our non-league schedule is going to be filled with landmines, going to be filled with schools that, we're going to challenge our kids. We're going to see what we can do. And if the kids can play this team really well, I think it's going to serve them well come tournament time. Like I said, I'd rather have a team that has been completely tested, finishing 16-6 against a 20-2 team or a 21-1 team or a 22-0 team that hasn't been tested at all. I'd just much rather have the team that's been tested come tournament time. Anyway, some great games last night. Brookfield. Keep an eye on this team in the grades here. In the MVAC. They're off to a 5-0 start, 2-0 in the league. They beat Camel last night, 59-36. Their next game is Thursday in Crestview. Larry and I will have that game. Boy, the road is getting rocky for Crestview. They jumped out to a really good start in the campaign. I believe they're now 6-4 and 1-2 in the gray tier. This is going to be a big-time game for the Rebels. See how they bounce back from their loss to Liberty last night. South Range got a victory over Hubbard last night, 67-19. Champion over Newton Falls. Jackson Milton beat Springfield 50-46. Western Reserve limited Mineral Ridge to 18 points, got a 54-18 victory. Harding got a win over McDonald, 47-38. Good for McDonald. This Harding team, everyone has been, with Trumbull County being out, people forgot that this team was one of the better teams in our area in Division I. I believe they got to the district championship game, if I'm not mistaken. McDonald's D4. McDonald went up 3 divisions. You want to talk about going from lightweight to heavyweight, and you played with Harding? Oh, McDonald's going to have just an unbelievable tournament. Barring a disaster, which that's part of the beautiful thing about the tournaments in any sport. When you have everyone in the tournaments, you have this interesting quality of on any given night, you can get beat. And I remember I had graduated 6 or 7 years. I think it was 7 years. I'd been out of school, and Rick Brook had one of his best teams, one of Sebring's best teams. They were undefeated in the regular season. They blew through the Tri-County League, the old TCL. Blew through that league. Had a decent, not a great, but a decent non-conference schedule. They were 20-0. I mean, they blew through everybody. And they went to the tournament, played a winless Lowellville team in the first round. And this was when you played all of your games in one centralized location. And Lowellville, for whatever reason, they were always jacked up, and they were always a tough out at the field house. And they played this undefeated Sebring team, and they almost beat Sebring. I think they lost to them by like 4 or 6 points. And Leetonia was supposed to play Sebring in the sectional championship game. This was the year Leetonia had 3 kids that came over from Columbiana because Columbiana had a really bad situation where they didn't have any money, and their sports departments for the 88-89 school year were cut. Imagine this. So 3 kids came over from Columbiana and went to Leetonia. John Sloan, Batura, Sloan, and David Weichert. And all 3 of these kids were dynamic. They're unbelievable in football, basketball, and baseball. By the way, the 3 kids played on the Leetonia baseball team. That's the last team that went to the regional semifinals and lost in extra innings. I think it was a 1-0 loss in extra innings to a team that went to the state championship game that year and ultimately lost. Anyway, these 3 kids came over and they were playing alongside the kids from Leetonia in the 88-89 basketball season. And everyone and their brothers said, oh, my God, Sebring's going to destroy this team. They had beaten them twice, beat them like a drum in Sebring, beat them pretty good in Leetonia. And I sat back and said, you just watch. You just watch right now. You watch. Sebring's going down. Just watch. And damn if they didn't. Leetonia upset them in the field house because Sebring didn't play well against Lowellville, and it carried over. Here's this 20-0 team, and everyone's thinking, okay, this is going to be Rick Brook is going to take this team down to Columbus. He took another team in the early 70s down to Columbus. I think he had 2 teams in Columbus, and this was going to be the next big team that was going to go down to Columbus, and Leetonia beat him in the sectional championship game. Went to the district's finals for the first and only time in school history, lost to Western Reserve, and it was Western Reserve that went to the state semifinals that year. Anyway, long story short, anything can happen in the tournaments. That's what makes the tournaments so cool to watch. When you have everyone involved, that's one of the great things about tournament basketball, tournament baseball, any tournament not named football. It's great when everyone gets invited because the upsets, they've happened. It's not all the time, but when it happens, oh man, it is interesting to watch. Make no mistake about that. Anyway, there's some teams that look like they're going to have a long tournament life. McDonald, and again, McDonald and Harding, 2 schools that had the same issue. Hey, we haven't played many games. They played last night. Harding beat them 47-38. But again, McDonald is a D4 program. Harding is a D1 program. If there is such a thing as a bad loss or as a great loss, that's it. That's a great showing for McDonald last night. Palestine gets in the win column. They beat Southern. Good to see East Palestine back in athletics again. They were shut down for a while because of COVID. They're now back to doing their thing. So they get a victory over Southern last night, 59-36. And I made mention Leetonia with a win over Lisbon, 50-40. And I got to double check on this. But according to the box score, Samantha Schneider ripped down 23 rebounds last night. If that's the case, I believe that is a school record for most rebounds in a game. I believe it is. All right, coming up on the program today, we will talk high school sports with the Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor, Doug Chapin. He'll be calling in on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline at 1 o'clock. We're going to talk some pucks. The NHL season starts in earnest tomorrow night. It's a shortened season, and the divisions are all jumbled up to fit the geographics. You have an Eastern Division, a Northern Division, which is Canada. All of the Canadian teams are going to have they're going to be in their own division where they're all going to be staying in Canada. And I think one of the big reasons why the NHL is doing this is because you're not allowed to go from Canada into the United States quite yet. There's still a ban on Americans coming into Canada and Canadians coming into America because of COVID. So the NHL skirted this by saying, okay, all of the Canadian teams, you're all going to be forming your division and you're going to be playing hockey exclusively in Canada. And the American teams, they're going to be playing in the West. They're going to be playing in the North. The East, the West, the Central. Those are going to be the three leagues for the National Hockey League. The Eastern Division, the Western Division, the Central Division, and then the Northern Division is the Canadian Division. So you're going to have all of these teams are going to be playing within your division. If you're a Penguins fan, you're in the East. You're going to be playing Philadelphia. You're going to be playing the Islanders, the Rangers, the Devils, the Bruins, the Sabres. There's six or seven teams in the East. The Blue Jackets, if you're a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, you're in the Central. I think the Red Wings are in this. The Minnesota Wild is in this. We'll run through some of the other. I think St. Louis is in this. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. I think Tampa Bay Lightning is in the Central Division as well. But you're just going to be playing your division, nothing else. Nobody's skirting outside of their division. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be really, really fascinating to see what transpires. But we'll talk with our hockey guru, Tom Callahan. That'll be coming up at 2 o'clock. We'll get a Penguins season preview, a Blue Jackets season preview. This should be fun. And again, hockey season starts tomorrow night. It's a shortened schedule, but again, all you're going to be doing is seeing teams within your own division. And let me just say this. There is going to be all kinds of extracurricular activities during the regular season, because you're going to be playing all these teams a number of times. Oh, God. There's going to be some, I don't want to say violent, but there's going to be some really, really physical hockey. And we'll have some gloves dropping on more than a few occasions. I think that, because you see this team so much, in a sport as violent, potentially violent as hockey is, you see a team 4 or 5 times, you're going to run into that stuff. So I think that you'll probably see gloves dropping more frequently in hockey this year, because you're going up against familiar teams a lot of times. You're not scooting outside of your division. The Canadians, how many Canadian teams are there? I think it's Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. I think that's it. So you get seven hockey teams from Canada. They're going to all be in their conference. Oh, good Lord. Vancouver will be playing Edmonton a ton, Calgary a ton. Yeah, stuff will happen. Pittsburgh, same thing. You're going to be seeing Buffalo a lot. You're going to be seeing Philadelphia a lot. You're going to be seeing Boston a lot. Yeah, stuff will happen. So we'll catch up with Tom Callahan at 2 o'clock. We'll get an NHL preview. And we'll also be talking some high school basketball with the sports editor of not only the Vindicator, but also the Tribune Chronicle. That's Doug Chapin. That'll be coming up at the top of the hour. Speaking of basketball, boys basketball state poll came out. We made mention of this last week. Yeah, there was zero representation from the local teams. None. Nobody was in the top 10. Nobody was in the teams, other teams receiving votes column. And we made mention of this when we had Doug on last week. And look, in years gone by, the AP poll, we had 4 votes. You had a vote from the Tribune Chronicle. You had a vote from the Vindicator. You had a vote from the Morning Journal. You had a vote from the Salem News. Those are 4 newspapers encompassing the 3-county area, and all 4 of them at one point in time were owned individually. Well, now that's a little different. The Salem News and the Morning Journal, they're owned by the same people. So they've pretty much merged. So you have 1 vote where it would have been 2 votes in Columbiana County. It's now 1 vote. Since the Salem News and the Morning Journal are basically the same newspaper, it's now 1 vote. Same thing with the Vindicator and the Tribune Chronicle. They merged. So in years gone by, when the Vindicator was owned separately, you had a separate vote. Well, now because the Vindicator and the Tribune Chronicle are pretty much under one umbrella, you have 1 vote there. So in the last year or two, we have gone from 4 individual votes down to 2. And that's one of the reasons why we're not getting as much representation. Yesterday, the boys' state poll came out, and there's 1 team that is receiving votes. They're not in the top 10. I believe, and let me do some arithmetic here, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They're number 16 in the state of Ohio, according to the Associated Press, the Struthers Wildcats. They are the only team of all of our teams in the YSN family, Mahoning, Trumbull, Columbiana counties, and we see you, Louisville, over in Stark County. Love Stark County. They are, the Struthers Wildcats, the only team that is represented in YSN Nation in the AP poll. And I think it's garbage, but this is also because of the fact that this area, over the years, over the last 9 years, hasn't produced a regional champion. Now, we're getting better, and I've made mention of this. Look, when I moved back home 9 years ago, basketball wasn't good. I mean, you had LeBray, and that was about it. Basketball's gotten a whole lot better in this area, and I think that AAU is one of the reasons. And I think that we'll get a lot more representation very soon. Unfortunately, right now, you're not getting any representation. Twofold. Number one, again, we only have 2 votes instead of 4 back in the day because of the merger of the Salem News and the Morning Journal and the merger of the Tribune Chronicle and the Vindicator. Now we're down to 2 votes. But I think the other reason is we haven't done very well regionally in boys basketball. We just haven't. And I think that will change when our basketball gets better on the regional front. And I think it will be as early as this year. I think that when, knock on wood, we play basketball, tournament basketball, and hopefully we will, I think that we are going to have a breakthrough. I think we will have some success. We'll have some success, a lot more success in the district and regionals than we have had in recent memory. All right, 330-886-0813. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. If you're a Buckeye fan and you want to commiserate last night, Alabama Incorporated, they're the best team in college football by a landslide. They demolished Ohio State last night, 52-24. And frankly, Alabama could have scored 60 if they wanted to. This is just an unbelievable football team. And all the credit in the world to Nick Saban. Last night, Nick Saban did something that I never thought any coach would have been able to do. And that was win more national championships than the legendary Paul Bear Bryant. Saban passed Bear Bryant yesterday, winning his 7th national championship, and doing so in impressive fashion, 52-24 over Ohio State. All right, we'll take a timeout, be back in a bit. It is a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown.
21 News.
Let's get right to our top story tonight.
More experienced reporters.
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
Telling more local stories.
We'll look at efforts
Boy is recovering from a broken.
Around our valley.
Good afternoon. We are here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect.
It's important for everyone. No place like home.
More local news.
In Mercer County Court.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Hi, this is Jim Myers with Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because
I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years. I think whenever we go there, whatever car we're looking for, they have tremendous inventory.
If you're looking for people who care about you, Greenwood is the place to go.
You know, it's like family there. The girls know me in service. It's Miss Kim in the Tahoe.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Local teams are heating up the hardwoods, and you can keep up with all the action on and off the court with Five Guys Hoop News all season long on 21 Sports.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Points presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. Coming up in a bit, we will hear from Vindicator sports editor as well as Tribune Chronicle sports editor Doug Chapin. We'll talk some high school hoops with Doug. We will also talk about the fallout of last night's national championship game with Alabama Incorporated knocking off Ohio State in pretty impressive fashion last night, 52-24. And we'll also talk about the Browns' path to the postseason as they polished off the Steelers over the weekend. They will now venture to Kansas City, taking on the Chiefs in the divisional playoff game. That will be coming up. Our conversation with Doug will be coming up momentarily. The game itself is going to be on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And made mention of this yesterday. Browns have a shot. I don't know if it's a great shot at this game, but they do have a shot at this game. What they're going to have to do, they're going to have to play keep away with that high-powered Kansas City offense. And the way you do it is long, sustaining drives. Look, the average National Football League game, a team will have anywhere from 10 to 12 possessions. If the Browns can limit Kansas City's possessions to 6 or 7, they have a legitimate chance in this game. Now, in order to do that, obviously you have to hang on to the ball 5+ minutes at a time. And once you get into the red zone, you can't kick field goals. You got to score touchdowns, much like last night with Ohio State and Alabama. When the two teams were trading touchdowns, I was like, okay, as long as Ohio State is scoring touchdowns, they're going to be in this ball game. When Ohio State kicked their field goal, I was like, that's it, game's over. At that point, especially when Alabama went down and scored the touchdown and went up 11, I was like, all right, game over. This is it. You got to match. You got to match that team touchdown for touchdown. And the secret is when you force that high-powered offense to punt, you have to score a touchdown the next time down the field. Next time you get the ball after they punt, that possession has to be a touchdown. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself behind the 8 ball. Same thing with the Browns. Look, if you limit Kansas City to 8 possessions, you figure they're going to score 6 times. They're only going to punt the ball twice. Maybe they turn the ball over and punt the ball once. When they turn the ball over or when they punt the ball, you got to score a touchdown. You have to jump all over that. Otherwise, you're missing your opportunities. You're just missing your opportunities. I go back to the Notre Dame game, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, wow, Notre Dame got killed. All right, they did. It should have been a hell of a lot more than 17 points. Everyone knows that. But they were at one point in time, they had Alabama at 21-7. Bama was leading, and Alabama did not score on 2 possessions. And Notre Dame had 2 chances to pull within 1 touchdown. Couldn't get it done. As soon as that happened, you knew the game was over. I don't even know if Alabama punted last night. They didn't even give Ohio State that courtesy. Alabama's offense was ridiculous last night. Jesus. All right, 330-886-0813. We'll hear from Doug Chapin. He's coming up next. Stick around.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Right now is a great time to get more for your trade-in at Tri-State Ford and drive home in a new or pre-owned vehicle. Choose from our great selection of new Ford models or pre-owned vehicles. Plus, get the Tri-State Ford Advantage, including a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty and more. At Tri-State Ford, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade, but you don't have to purchase one of ours to sell us yours.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point. Hello. Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. Doug Chapin will be calling in. I will join him at 1:30 this afternoon. He's got some business to take care of, and we're pretty flexible around these parts. So we'll get Doug on around 1:30, and that'll be a perfect lead-in. We'll go back-to-back, as we'll have Doug Chapin on from 1:30 till somewhere around 2 o'clock. And then at 2 o'clock, we'll be talking hockey with our hockey guru, Tom Callahan. He'll be calling in on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, and we'll get some hockey talk going as the NHL season starts tomorrow night. And our two local teams or regional teams, however you want to say it. The Penguins are in the Eastern Division, and the Blue Jackets are in the Central Division. And again, we're going to have 3 geographical divisions encompassing the teams in the United States. And then there's going to be 1 division that is going to be Canada. And I believe the Canadian teams, you got Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. You have Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. I believe that's 7 teams in the Canadian division, the Northern Division. And because of COVID, and again, I think that the National Hockey League deserves an A+ on this. You still have a very real situation going on with COVID, where Canadians are not allowed into the United States, and the Americans are not allowed into Canada. So because of that, the NHL skirted the issue by saying, okay, well, we'll have our 7 teams in Canada form their own division. Now, geographically, it's not really geographical because, well, okay, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver are all pretty much in the same area. Winnipeg as well. Manitoba is not too far away from Alberta, not too far away from the province of where the hell is Vancouver, the province? Not sure which province that is. But you got Alberta, where Calgary is, Manitoba, where Winnipeg is, and then you've got Vancouver and Edmonton. And then you've got the Ottawa is in Ontario, Toronto is in Ontario, and then Montreal is in Quebec. So you have the 3 teams in the East and 4 teams that are pretty much in the West. So it's not really geographically friendly for the Canadians, but, they have their own division. The other, 23 teams? Because there's 30 teams in the National Hockey League. The other 23 teams are going to be scattered about. You've got the East, the Central, and the West. So I believe in the East you're going to have Philadelphia, Boston, the 3 New York teams, Washington, Carolina. I'm gonna have to look because it seems to me Buffalo and Pittsburgh are in the same division, and it seems to me that they're going to be taking some teams from the from South, like Tampa Bay's in the Central. They're not in the East. I think the Florida Panthers are in the East because they're on the eastern seaboard of Florida. They're in the Miami area, so I believe they're in the East. Carolina's in the East. Washington is in the East. The Flyers are in the East. The 3 New York teams are in the East. Pittsburgh and Buffalo are in the East. So you got like 9 teams in the East. 7 teams in the Central, 7 teams in the West. I don't even know if Seattle's playing this year or not. I believe Seattle's playing this year, so then you'll have a 31st team in the National Hockey League. So I believe they're playing in the West, obviously. So we'll straighten it out with Tom Callahan, and this should be fun. I mean, you're only playing your own division, your own geographical division. So there are going to be a lot of interesting hockey games to say the least. All right, speaking of interesting games, it's Tuesday. So we're going to have a crud load of games on the network tonight. I know that Larry Scragg and yours truly, we're going to be busy. I've made I was kidding yesterday. I made the point that we're pretty much going to be pitching a tent at Crestview High School. And, just sit back and might as well get a sleeping bag and hang out in the gym. Because we got all kinds of games that are going to be played in the Rebels Gymnasium. Last night we had the Crestview Liberty game. Tonight it's boys action. Crestview playing Liberty. Varsity game starting somewhere around 7:00, and then Thursday Crestview girls will be playing Brookfield girls. Friday, the boys will have their say, as the Crestview boys and the Brookfield boys will play Friday night at Rebels Gym. And then on Saturday, the Western Reserve girls will come into Crestview and take on the Lady Rebs. So we're in the middle of, 5 games this week? Game 2 of 5 will be played tonight at Rebels Gymnasium, and hopefully the Crestview boys fare a little bit better than the girls did last night against Liberty. And I made mention in the first hour, and I'll say it again, this Liberty girls team, holy crap. Man, are they good. And here's the scary part. There are no seniors on this team. Made mention, there's 14 kids in the entire program that would be freshman, varsity, junior varsity. And they don't have a freshman program. It's freshman kids are in the JVs. And truth be told, there are not a lot of programs that have a freshman team, a junior varsity team, and a varsity team. You can count on one hand the amount of D3 or D4 schools that have those 3 things, where you separate your freshmen are playing freshman basketball, unless, of course, one of your freshman players is good enough to play JV or varsity basketball. You know, by and large, if you have a perfect program, you have a freshman program, freshman team, JV team, varsity team. And you have a fully stocked 8th grade team, 7th grade team, and your youth program is filled with kids that are learning how to play basketball. Whether you're taking that team to tournaments. And I remember in not too long ago, and I think Leetonia still does it. I don't think they do it as frequently as they used to, but back in the day, there was a tournament that was held Christmas break and extending into the first 2 or 3 weekends in January, where you had wall-to-wall basketball all day long with 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders from any school that wanted to be part of this. And I can remember, and I think it was like 5 years ago. I want to say it was like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, where not only did you have kids in schools in Columbiana County, but you also had Canfield was there, Fitch was there, Boardman was there, Poland was there, and you had 2 or 3 different teams from Fitch and Boardman and 2 teams from Poland and Canfield, and these teams would converge down in Leetonia, and they'd play this ginormous tournament where you essentially played all kinds of basketball. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful to watch. They had the middle school gym and they had the high school gym, and both of these gyms were being used, and it was wall-to-wall basketball for Saturdays and Sundays, about 4 or 5 weeks. And obviously the schools paid a tournament fee, and you had these games. You had the referees, the OHSAA officiating, and it was beautiful. And one of the reasons why basketball has made such a great step forward in this area is because of things like this. Many years ago, I had an opportunity to speak with legendary basketball coach in the city of Warren, Bob Larica. Used to be the head basketball coach at Warren Western Reserve. And Bobby Larica made a comment that it just resonates today. Is that, look, if you want to start your kids in a youth program, and you want your kids to start playing really, really good basketball, you start them early. But you don't have them playing in a 10-foot rim. You tell your 1st and 2nd graders to shoot at a 10-foot rim, you're going to develop really bad habits, really poor shooting abilities. Why? Well, because kids can't throw a basketball into a 10-foot hoop. I mean, if you're trying to get them to shoot a 10, 15-foot jump shot using a 10-foot basketball hoop, it's going to be damn near impossible. So you lower the hoops. You get some portable hoops, and you get an 8-foot hoop. You get an 8-foot hoop and a 10-foot free throw line. And you have 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 4th graders using the 8-foot hoop with a 10-foot free throw line. Now, the 4th graders, you can move them to 10 feet, 15 feet, 10-foot hoop, 15-foot free throw line. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders, by and large, should be using an 8-foot hoop, 10-foot free throw line. And you're teaching these kids, all right, this is how you do your jump shot, perfect form, the whole 9 yards. And by lowering the hoop, you're allowing these kids to not have any bad habits. Like when you're shooting the ball, like when you're shooting the ball as a 1st or 2nd grader, you're not going to get anywhere near the 10-foot hoop. So you're going to be throwing this ball instead of shooting it. Well, that's a bad habit waiting to happen. And you know how hard it is to break a kid of a bad habit? It's a pretty hard thing to do. It was absolutely one of the greatest things I had ever heard any basketball coach say. And it's the truth if you think about it. It's the absolute truth. If you have kids in 1st or 2nd or 3rd grade and you're telling these kids, okay, We're going to have you play basketball on an 8-foot hoop. That's a game changer. Now you've got kids that can shoot the ball, properly shoot the ball, teaching them proper shooting techniques, because they don't have to throw the ball now because you're not playing in a 10-foot hoop. Now you're playing in an 8-foot hoop. Big difference. And then those kids graduate from the 8-foot hoop to the 10-foot hoop as they get bigger. Hey, it's fascinating what you can do with kids first, second, and third grade. All right, look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's, you're getting the kids to run the floor. Okay, great. But at the end of the day, teach them how to dribble, teach them how to dribble with both hands, teach them hand-eye coordination, learning how to catch a ball on a chest pass, bounce pass, teaching them to get into a triple threat position. Oh my God, so many things you can do just by lowering the hoops from 10 feet to 8 feet. All of those bad shooting habits go out the window because they're no longer throwing a ball at a 10-foot hoop, because that's all they can do. Unless they're 2 feet away from the basket, then you can shoot the ball. It makes perfect sense. And I would think that a lot of programs would have that mentality where all right, we're going to teach the kindergarten and first grade kids. All right, here's a basketball. Learn how to dribble the basketball with both hands. Learn how to properly throw a pass. Learn how to shoot. And the shooting part, learn how to shoot. Pull out an 8-foot hoop. Now the thing you got to do is keep the 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th graders and the high school kids away from the 8-foot hoop. Otherwise, it'll get destroyed because everyone wants to throw one down. I mean, let's be honest. That's the number one thing everyone wants to do. Oh, you see an 8-foot hoop? Well, you want to throw it down. I mean, not that I could. Well, I could probably throw one down on an 8-foot hoop. I think it would be entertaining to see if I could throw one down on an 8-foot hoop. One would think I could. I mean, I'm 6'1.5", 6'2". Arm should probably get close to 8 foot. I could probably trip over a Sunday paper and still throw one down on an 8-foot hoop. At least I would think. Then again, I'm old, so you never know. 330-886-0813. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. Happy 1-year anniversary today to the Cleveland Browns. Yesterday, by the way, was a 4-year anniversary to the Buffalo Bills. 4 years ago yesterday, the Bills made one of the best moves they've ever made by bringing on board Coach McDermott. 4 years ago yesterday, the Bills hired Coach McDermott. 1 year ago today, Cleveland Browns hired Kevin Stefanski to be their football coach. And what a crazy year it's been. Coach Stefanski in a basement with his phone shut off, watching his team win their first playoff game in God only knows how many years. 1994 for folks that are keeping score at home. First road playoff victory since 1969. And I believe that was the year that the Cowboys hosted the Browns, and the Browns absolutely destroyed Dallas in the divisional playoffs, and then lost to the Vikings in the NFL championship game. This was the last year prior to the AFL and the NFL merging. In 1970, the AFL teams merged with the NFL teams, and there were 10 AFL teams and 16 NFL teams, and they needed 3 NFL teams to jump over to join the AFL, and they moved it to AFC and NFC, which is where we are today. And the 3 teams that jumped over from the NFL to the AFL, or the AFC, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, the old Baltimore Colts, who are now in Indianapolis. The Cleveland Browns, who are now the Baltimore Ravens, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are and will remain the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are the three teams that went from the NFL and jumped over to the AFL, which turned into the AFC. Anyway, the year before was the last year that the AFL had their teams and the NFL had their teams. So you had 16 teams in the NFL, and you had, 3 divisions. So you had 3 divisional winners, 1 wild card, and you had divisional playoffs. Cleveland went to Dallas, bombed the Cowboys in Dallas, and then lost to the Vikings in the NFL championship game. And then the Vikings lost to the Chiefs in Super Bowl IV. And that was the last Super Bowl played between a AFL and NFL team. And that's why when everyone makes the argument of how many teams, or who is the team that has won the most championships, you sit back and people will sit back and say Tom Brady, because he has won 6 Super Bowl championships, to which I will say he is not the person who has won the most championships, quarterback that has won the most championships. It is, in fact, Bart Starr who has won the most championships. Bart Starr won 5 NFL championships and won the first 2 Super Bowls. And back in the first 4 Super Bowls, these are the only Super Bowls in which it was played against a separate league. So because it was played against a separate league, it is a championship other than the NFL championship. So Bart Starr won 5 NFL championships and 2 Super Bowls, which were completely separate from NFL championship. So there you go. Bart Starr is still the record holder for most championships in the NFL / Now, if you really want to get technical, Otto Graham has actually won more championships than anyone. He won 4 All-American football championships. The All-American Football Conference was swallowed up by the NFL after the 49 season. The Cleveland Browns, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Baltimore Colts went to the NFL. Baltimore died after the 1950 season and then resurfaced 2 years later, actually 3 years later, in 1953. This was not the team that went over from the All-American Football Conference, or the All-American Football League, I'm sorry. They were a completely separate team, and they became a National Football League team in 1953. But technically, Otto Graham has won more football championships than any other quarterback. He's won 8. So a little bit of trivia there. Not that anyone cares, I guess. All right, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, open for business. As I mentioned, plenty of basketball on the network tonight, and game 2 of 5 games that will be played in Rebels Gymnasium, and that should be an awful lot of fun as the boys play Liberty tonight. Then the girls play Brookfield on Thursday. The boys play Brookfield on Friday. Then on Saturday, Western Reserve comes a-calling. Western Reserve is having a really, really nice campaign, as Western Reserve and Crestview will play a non-conference affair. And Western Reserve looking every bit the team that will be competing and contending for a Division IV district championship. And again, keep in mind, this year will be the first year that we have 2 districts combine into 1 district. Now, we are being told, not officially, but one would think, Division IV, even though it's never been, I don't think it's been made official yet, but one would think it makes perfect sense to have, for the boys, the Struthers District and the Grand Valley District up in Trumbull County. That would be the 2 districts that would merge together. One would think, boys in D3, the Salem District would merge with the Warren Harding District. What is not known, and I'll be real curious to see, who merges with the Boardman district in D2? Because if you remember, all of the D2 teams in the area play in the same district tournament, which is the Boardman district tournament. We have 13 D2 teams, and all 13 of them play in the same tournament, the Boardman district. Which of the other district tournaments are we going to be seeing merging with the Boardman district? And could it be that we get the district that includes Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary? And if that is the case, oh man, is this going to be a game changer. Again, keep in mind, and if you remember, when we had fall sports, volleyball, soccer, I think those were the only two sports. Cross country, you didn't. I don't think that it was that big of a deal. I think it's a little bit different with track and field and cross country, and it's a little bit different with golf as well. But soccer and volleyball, you had two districts combining into one supersized district, and we had a couple of teams that won districts and played each other in the regional tournaments, which was cool because, you would have one team, you're guaranteed one team, one of our teams on the wall, to go into the regional championship game, which is something that we all won, and then we want that team to go into the state. Didn't get that in volleyball, but we did get it in soccer, thank God. We'll see what happens in basketball. Like I said, I mean, if Akron St. V, if that district happens to be the district that crunches up with Boardman district, well, this is potentially a game changer. From a selfish standpoint, I don't want to see that district. I'd rather see another district where we have a much better chance at getting Cheney, Struthers, West Branch, Ursuline, one of those teams, Mooney. Oh, God, Mooney could be. Well, no, Mooney's D3, I beg your pardon. There's a lot of D2 programs. Salem is another program. I think Salem's been under the radar for quite some time. There are a lot of teams in D2 that, if you don't supersize the district that includes Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary, I think we have a really good chance at getting two local teams, but we'll see. I can tell you this, and I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. Struthers and Cheney in boys basketball, yeah, sign me up for that one. Oof. Sign me up for that one. My goodness, that would be a great game. All right, 330-886-0813. Doug Chapin, Tribune Chronicle and Vindicator sports editor, is coming up next. Stick around. It's a Tuesday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Ruud gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy-efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Ruud, and so should you.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
High-res Futurecast shows steady snow for the next few hours.
Still just downright cold.
It is bitter out there.
Several strong bands of lake effect snow.
Winds is kind of the big story today as well.
So if you need a more detailed winter forecast on WFMJ.com and the Storm Tracker 21 app.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because
I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet
because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. As we go to the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, we find the Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor, Doug Chapin. Doug, how are you today, sir?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. Boy, last night, my partner, Larry Scragg, and I saw a really entertaining game in Crestview between the Liberty Leopards and the Crestview Rebels. This is a team in Liberty that is no seniors, 2 or 3 juniors on the team, 1 sophomore, and the rest of the team comprised of freshmen. And they're off to a 3-1 start. And I made the comment on the air last night that if the freshmen decide that they want to really make an effort to just play basketball and take the program seriously, this is a Liberty program that before these kids graduate, before the freshmen graduate, they could be playing and or winning a state championship game. They're that good.
Well, Coach Watson has had a pretty good program going here the last, I don't want to say 4 or 5 years, maybe 3 years. And they lost a couple of seniors that were really good either last year or the year before. I keep getting mixed up because of the not having a postseason last year. I can't remember whether one of those years I think they made it to the district final. But yeah, they've had a pretty good program recently, and clearly she's been Coach Watson's been developing the younger group, the younger kids in the middle school ages and lower or younger, and it's been paying off in recent years at the varsity level.
Last night also, Division I Warren Harding played D4 McDonald, a big step up for McDonald. But, that's a program that a lot of people believe will make a serious tournament run. And, boy, they gave Harding a really good game yesterday. And I think that's going to be beneficial to both schools because McDonald is not a normal D4 program, and I think that helps Harding. And clearly, Harding and their really, really good program, and most everyone is back from that program, they certainly will be helping out McDonald.
Certainly, yeah. You love to see those kind of matchups. If it weren't for the Ohio State game, we probably would have covered that one. That's one we had marked. But both of those are good programs, like you said. I know Coach Caputo at Harding has a lot back. I think they lost some height, and they're having to change things a little bit how they play compared to last year. But yeah, they've got plenty of really good players. Who's the coach at McDonald now?
Coach Matese.
Yeah. He steps into a spot where he's got a lot of talent back, and he's a veteran coach who's had success and run successful teams before and successful programs, so he knows how to deal with that. And we expect both of those teams to have a decent tournament run once we get there.
And I love when teams decide to step up and play some difficult games, knowing that, all right, you can play your league schedule and you have, in a perfect world, 22 games. Now, most of these teams will not play 22 games, but it's good to see that some of these schools are stepping up and playing some really tough non-conference basketball. I look no further than Canfield last night, who played against Stowe Monroe Falls, which is historically a really good Division I program. Now, Canfield was on the short end of a 54-35 game last night, but don't think for a second that game and playing against that caliber of competition isn't going to be helping Canfield down the road.
Sure, we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of years, that especially in sports where you're in the tournament, no matter what your record is, it's helpful to play teams that are better than you, because it makes your players better. It makes them understand, this is what you have to, this is the level you want to try to attain. And so, it helps in that way. Plus, it just, makes them better players.
Doug, as we have gone through the first couple of weeks since Trumbull County has been allowed to play basketball, thanks to the Board of Health giving the green light for the Trumbull County schools, are there any teams in both on the boys' end and the girls' end that have stuck out and have impressed you in the early going of their basketball season?
To tell you the truth, I haven't really had a chance to assess what the results are on any given night. We with John Vargo leaving, we're shorthanded and we're just barely able to get papers out every night. So I really haven't had a chance to look and say, this is going to be a really good team or not. I had an idea of how things were going to be after we did our preseason pages, but since then with the COVID cancellations and postponements and stoppages of play, it's been hard to follow. So I'm not really sure, that I see anybody that's going to be a surprise standout team. And again, they've only played a few games, so perhaps 2 weeks from now we'll have a better idea of that.
Well, we're down to 5 weeks left for the girls before tournament starts, 6 weeks left for the boys before tournament starts. And, the Northeast Board is not officially determined which districts are going to combine to form the supersized districts. I got to imagine we pretty much have an idea of the boys and girls D4 and D3. D2 could be interesting because all of the D2 teams participate in the exact same tournament, at least in boys. I believe the girls, Lakeview, for a couple of years has participated in another district than the other D2 programs in the southern part of Trumbull County and Mahoning and northern Columbiana counties. Any idea what the Northeast Board is going to do in terms of the supersized district tournaments, Doug?
Well, in the volleyball and soccer, they sort of did it by east-west, so that the sites like Lake County, Ashtabula County, Trumbull, Mahoning, Columbiana were in the same super district, to use a phrase, and then the western part was separate. Now, that meant Stark and Summit counties and Cuyahoga counties went one way or the other. But if I think they had taken the existing normal districts that we were used to with 12 to 16 teams, and they sort of went by the site, and they chose them that way. So they were, like in Division 3, or Division 1 in volleyball, which in volleyball has 4 divisions also, which will make it. The girls' basketball should be very close to what the volleyball alignment was, I would think. So there were 3 east districts and 3 west districts within the Northeast district. So I would expect something similar to that. It seemed to work for volleyball and soccer. So now, of course, soccer has fewer divisions. But like I said, volleyball, the girls' basketball should be very similar to that, I would think. But we'll have to see when they come out with those.
It'll be interesting. Hopefully, and we've been speculating on the show, with boys basketball, all of the D2 programs are in one district tournament, which is the Boardman district. We're hoping that the other district that smashes into this Boardman district to combine a super district, I'm really hoping it's not the district that includes Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary. I'd love to see maybe Geauga and Lake County, that district tournament. combining with the Boardman district? Because I think that would make for some really, really fascinating basketball.
Why? What was the one you said you didn't want them to?
I don't want Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary in any part of this because, I mean, let's be honest. If you have Akron, St. V separate, now you can have Cheney go to one district, Struthers go to the other district, and there's a really good chance Cheney and Struthers win their 2 districts.
Okay, so, yeah, I would expect that it's to the north would be the other district to come in because that's how they did it in soccer and volleyball. The division was all on, the like I said, the Lake Geauga one would be with the Mahoning County one. But that doesn't say it's going to be that way. So, it's, and then we're back to that old discussion we've been having about the team, how they do in a regional. If you get St. Vincent in the first round of the regional, that doesn't make what you're accomplished any less if you end up losing to them, as opposed to getting them in the regional final. But, who knows? There's always a team out there or two that are, head and shoulders above everybody, and it's unfortunate when our local teams run into them somewhere along the line.
Doug Chapin, Tribune Chronicle and Vindicator Sports Editor, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Last night, Alabama Incorporated blowing out Ohio State, and you get the feeling Alabama could have scored 60 if they wanted to on Ohio State last night. Alabama is a cut above anybody in college football, and what Nick Saban has done in Alabama is nothing short of magnificent.
Sure, yeah. I mean, they're really good. I felt the same way. I mean, Alabama could have scored more if they needed to, and I thought Ohio State went about it as well as they could have, considering their limitations, et cetera. They just were not very strong in the secondary all year, and they did their best to make it to sort of like do what the Browns did on Sunday night, is to make the Alabama work their way down the field. Don't give them the big play, and then you need to in the red zone. You need to make the other team kick field goals, and they weren't able to do that. Alabama's just too good for that. Saban has. This group that is leaving now really has had a really good 4 years there, 3-4 years, whatever it is, and he has always been able to, make sure he's got more coming behind. That's one thing about Saban that he's done well, and I think for the most part, Ohio State to some degree has done it too. They've managed to keep their kids, even the ones who have not really been a full-time starter, because some of these kids get there to a big school like that, and in 3 years' time, they're ready to go to the NFL, whether they played much on the college level or not. Some of them are good enough to do that. And he's managed to keep them another year at least in school so that they can, get better as a player, but also, it keeps the team, makes the team that much better. They have kids who could be playing in the NFL that very fall, instead playing for Alabama. So he's done a very good job of that, and that's one of the things that's hard to sell to these kids, these 5-star, 4-star recruits who know they're going to go to the NFL eventually. It's hard to sell them on being a team, being part of the program, and part of what's going on there. They want to get their money, and I don't blame them for that. Any kid who, understands that he's going to be drafted in the first round after 3 years in college, I see no reason to tell him to stay in school. He can always go back to school if he wants to get a diploma or, whatever. But Saban has done a really good job of keeping them around for another year for the most part. I mean, obviously some of them leave after 3, but he's been able to keep some, and that's hard to do.
Here's the million-dollar question, and maybe it's because I'm older and I understand this a whole lot more, and there's something that speaks to with age comes some sort of wisdom. But it baffles me that, we're on the same page with the kids that, 3 years they want to go to the NFL, especially kids that you're good enough to make that jump in 3 years. Why is it that everyone wants to go to the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Clemsons, if you're smart enough, the Notre Dames, and then there's some schools that are a little further down the line. Why aren't some of these kids looking and saying, hey, you know what? Instead of me being in a ocean full of 4- and 5-star athletes, and I may or may not have an opportunity to start from day one, and I may or may not have much playing time in the first 2 years, let alone 3 years, why am I not going over to a mediocre Power 5 conference team and starting immediately in day one and getting my 3 years in and going into the National Football League?
Oh, so I want to win too. I mean, and they enjoy they know that if they're at Alabama or Ohio State, they'll be on national TV more times than they will at Vanderbilt or Tennessee, Mississippi, Northwestern. Although you could argue too that everybody's on TV now every week. So, but I think they want to win too. They want to be part of a winning program. And also, if you look at the numbers of how many NFLers those places produce, it seems to be logical that, well, if I go there, I got a better chance of making it in the NFL. Part of that is because they do such a great job of training those kids once they get there at Alabama and Ohio State. But every school can do that. Can get the weight room and the nutritionists and all that kind of stuff. And part of it, I think, is pride to be able to go back home and say, hey, I got recruited by Ohio State or Alabama. And now, with the transfer portal, they can go ahead and sign with one of those big schools. And once they make a decision or figure it out, after a year or two, they can transfer and do exactly that. They mentioned last night, I think Herb Street said something about one of the things about the Alabama kids and that Saban preaches is you have to have a good self-assessment of yourself, a realistic self-assessment of yourself. And that's another thing, too, with high school-age kids, and, even at 19 and 20, they're not really necessarily truthful when they assess how good they actually are, especially if they've got somebody in their ear telling them, oh, you're not playing only because the coach doesn't like you. It's not because the other guy in front of you is better. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I think, just being able to say I was recruited by and signed with Alabama or Ohio State is a big part of it.
Well, look, I can make an argument that you can turn a program into a championship caliber program. Now, obviously, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was weather related, but the University of Miami is the greatest example. In the mid-'70s, you couldn't give tickets away to watch the Miami Hurricanes. Then Howard Schnellenberger comes into Miami, recruits his ass off, starts bringing in some talent from not only Florida, but talent from up north, i.e. Bernie Kosar and Jim Kelly, who became the first two quarterbacks in what turned out to be Championship University. And Kosar was the first quarterback to win that first of 3 or 4 championships in the 80s for Miami. Now, obviously, there was a lot more with just recruiting and a lot more because Miami, it's one of the greatest cities in America. It happens to be warm 12 months out of the year. And if you've ever been to Coral Gables, that campus is absolutely phenomenal. And I understand that had a great deal to do with it, but you can get a program like a Purdue or Vanderbilt, well, not Vanderbilt because the grades are a big part of that. Tennessee. You can't tell me that the University of Tennessee can't take a page out of the book of a program that was once proud, that went to crap, and they recruit their butts off, not only in the state of Tennessee, but across the country. You can't tell me that Tennessee can't get back to to the realms of greatness. Of course they can. It's just you got to have 5 or 6 kids that are willing to think in the way of, I can actually play here and play for 3 years and get my, just due because I'm in a great conference and actually be on TV every single week.
Well, sure. I mean, you can do it. And look at Clemson is like that. Clemson was a middling ACC football program for a long time. They had their a couple of times where they got pretty decent, but they weren't able to make it last. And that's the thing that is hardest to do, is to make it last, so that when you do dip because you make the wrong hire, a head coach or whatever, the dip isn't very long. Alabama's good. When Bear Bryant and when you were talking about Kosar and Kelly, I thought of Namath going down to Alabama to play and helping to kickstart that next level of Alabama's championship teams. But when they dipped after Bryant left, and I think they had Gene Stallings and whoever else they had in there, they had a couple years where it went kaput, and they were 6-6, or they were 7-5. They weren't 3-9, and so that's the hardest part, I think. Is so when somebody like Saban comes in, it's not as hard to get back on top because you haven't fallen all that far. And there are very few programs that are in that boat where they can, look at Ohio State when they dropped after the Tressel. It wasn't very long, and they were able to hire the coach that they wanted. It sometimes it's just a coincidence that the right coach gets there at the right time, and the right recruits are coming out that year, and he is able to get them, and then you can do that. I agree. There are probably a handful, a dozen schools out there that have been at the peak previously, and some of it, part of it too, is modern kids don't know anything about history, and so they don't know that Tennessee was a power at one time. They don't know that Southern Cal was a power at one time. They're all looking at the modern stuff, what kind of TikTok videos does this school put out, what kind of, all that kind of stuff, rather than, the tradition and all that stuff. So you're right, it could happen. I mean, but again, those kids, they're not going to be the one, I'm going to go to Tennessee and start that program back up. They'd rather go to Alabama and say that they're part of a championship team.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. I like taking the more difficult road, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I would do it the way they're doing it now, but I agree. I would. I mean, you want to compete. That's why I get sort of upset when people complain, well, so-and-so's transferring out because he's not good enough to play here. Well, okay, what's wrong with that? We want them to play. They want to play, too. Nobody goes to school just to go to school. These football guys, I shouldn't say that. There are probably a few that are actually serious about their education. But if you go to a place and you're not good enough for it, what's wrong with saying, I'm going to go back to, and go from Alabama to Tennessee or to Kentucky or to whatever, Arkansas, because I'm not good enough to play at Alabama? That's fine. I got no problem with that. And some of these kids get criticized for being afraid or, whatever. So it's kind of I think more than anything, it's the head coaches and their personality and their ability to keep these kids thinking they're part of a team rather than they're there just to get to the NFL.
Doug, before we let you go, the Browns beat the Steelers over the weekend. This is the one-year anniversary, by the way. Kevin Stefanski named the head football coach of the Cleveland Browns 1 year ago today. What is the ingredient that the Browns need to have on Sunday afternoon when they play the Kansas City Chiefs?
What ingredient? You mean?
The one thing that they're going to need to do to upset Kansas City on Sunday afternoon.
5 turnovers from the other team would help.
Yeah, that's true.
I think probably it's be patient. They're going to have to do, even if they have Denzel Ward and Kevin Johnson back in the secondary, they're still going to have to play that umbrella don't give up the big play kind of defense. And go ahead and let them throw it underneath and tackle. So I guess patience is the word I am going to use. And on offense, they need to keep Mahomes on the bench by, long, time-consuming drives, which means running the ball effectively. I just hope I guess a full lineup might be helpful too if they could have everybody there. I don't know what the situation with that is going to be, but that patience I think is the main thing. They did a good job of that against the Steelers after they built that big lead, which of course was totally unexpected. They showed good patience. They didn't panic when you knew Pittsburgh was going to get back and close in on it, make the game tighter, and the offense did a good job responding, and they didn't panic, and they which is a testament to Stefanski in the year he's been here, how well that message has permeated through the team, one game at a time, one play at a time, and they did a good job with that.
Doug, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you next week, brother.
All right, take care.
You got it. Doug Chapin, Tribune Chronicle and Vindicator Sports editor, joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. When we come back, we got some hockey. Oh, yeah, baby. The NHL starting tomorrow night. Penguins and the Flyers tomorrow night. Renewing that little how-do-you-do rivalry. The Blue Jackets will be in action, I believe, on Thursday. Blue Jackets and the Penguins are in a completely separate division. We'll catch up with Tom Callahan and talk about this crazy hockey season that's going to be coming up starting tomorrow night. Talk to you in a little bit.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Ruud gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy-efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Ruud, and so should you.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
High-res Futurecast shows steady snow for the next few hours.
Still just downright cold.
It is bitter out there.
Several strong bands of lake effect snow.
Wind is kind of the big story today as well.
So if you need a more detailed winter forecast on WFMJ.com and the Storm Tracker 21 app.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because
I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. With our combined 70 years experience and comprehensive wealth strategy, we assist our clients attain their goals. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services, or visit WRSWealthAdvisors.com. Good luck, athletes!
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy-efficient experts.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Points presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline is where we will find our hockey guru, Mr. Tom Callahan. Tom, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, Ron. Thanks. It's good to talk to you again.
Same here. Now, the NHL, and I will give, and I don't give their commissioner much credit because he isn't exactly a smart human being in some ways. But in this particular instance, the National Hockey League, I'm going to give these guys a tremendous amount of kudos for making sure that we get a shortened season, but going outside the box, understanding that we still have a very dangerous virus going around, and because Canadians are not allowed to come to America and Americans aren't allowed to come to Canada, the NHL thought outside the box, and we are going to have an interesting brand of hockey this year.
We are, and for those who may not know, Ron, the NHL, as you alluded to, has really gone outside the box. They realigned their divisions. They've even renamed them. They sold corporate sponsorships, which has rattled a few cages, but you know what? It's a pandemic. There's not a lot of revenue, especially none from fans. So I don't mind it. I think the league is doing what they have to do. They're going division only, and they've realigned the divisions. Ron, there are teams that never, ever would have played each other 8 times in the regular season. You might have seen them once home, once road. Now, all of a sudden, there's going to be some crazy rivalries, and the playoffs is different. We could have a completely different playoff setup as well. It's going to be something to look forward to. I'll be honest with you. I'm impressed, as are you, that the league decided they were going to go this far out of their comfort zone to have a season and to make it entertaining for us in a 56-game package.
Okay, the Americans are geographically aligned. The Canadians, they're not geographically aligned at all. They're fending for themselves. And the 7 hockey teams in Canada, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, they're going to be joining Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. So those who don't know their Canadian geography, and Lord knows none of us do, but I do know that Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary, and Winnipeg are in the western part of the United States. Winnipeg is more central. The other 3 are in the western part of Canada. Excuse me, not United States. And Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa are in the eastern half of the great country of Canada, yet all 7 of these teams are going to be in the same division. So Toronto is going to be playing Vancouver 8 times, which sign me up. Sign me up for this. I look forward to seeing the Canadian teams play each other 8 times in the course of a season.
I do too, Ron. And, you know, Toronto-Montreal is a tremendous rivalry. And so is Edmonton, Calgary, which everybody looks forward to. But now we'll get to see, as we just talked about, you never see Montreal and Vancouver go head-to-head 8 times in a season. I can't wait to see the animosity there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The other thing it does for the purists, and especially all the Canadian fans, and that TV contract up there is worth billions, it guarantees one of the final 4 teams competing for the Stanley Cup will be in Canada this year.
Yeah, and that's the best part of it. And we'll get to the playoffs. Or as Coach Morrow once said, playoffs? We'll get to those in a little bit. Here's the in pertaining to the two regional teams that we have in the National Hockey League. Pittsburgh is going to be in one of, if not the best division in all of hockey this year, the East, that's going to include Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Devils, the Penguins, and the Sabres. 8 teams are going to be doing battle in the Eastern Division. And then in the Central Division, Columbus will be playing with Tampa, Carolina, Nashville, Chicago, Dallas, Detroit, and Florida. Man, these are some thinking outside the box. I love what the NHL has done. And then in the West, you'll have Colorado, Vegas, St. Louis, Anaheim, Arizona, Los Angeles, Minnesota, and San Jose. So you got 8 teams in the American divisions and 7 teams in the Canadian division. Let the games be played.
Yeah, and you know what, Ron? That East division that you just talked about is going to be the fiercest division. There are 2 legitimately good teams that in an ordinary year would be in the playoffs that will not make it this year. And I don't know which 2 they're going to be. That is the one I've had the hardest time calling. So Flyers, Penguins fans, that's a tough one. Even you never know what you're going to get out of the Buffalo Sabres this year because they have gone out and acquired Taylor Hall, and you don't know what kind of lift that'll give them. But all the question marks for the traditional teams, and the Rangers and Boston and all those teams. But then you talked about the Central, and it's interesting now how Tampa Bay is over in the Central against teams that are traditionally in the West, like the Nashvilles and Dallases of the world. And there's so much going on. It's fun. It'll be a fun season for the Blue Jackets because I think they're making the playoffs this year. Pittsburgh, I don't know. I honestly have a hard time putting Pittsburgh in ahead of, 4 other teams essentially. And so, but boy, oh boy, it's going to be a lot of fun this. And this is the kind of the theme, isn't it? We've been talking about this, and listen to us. We sound like kids again. We're like, boy, this is going to be fun. I think it is. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and an unusually highly competitive year.
This is the equivalent of Major League Baseball saying, screw the American League, screw the National League. We're going to put teams geographically, and we're going to put teams in a division geographically, and it doesn't matter if you have the American League or the National League because we're getting rid of both leagues, and it's now going to be 30 teams, one umbrella, and we're going to go geographically, and you're only going to be playing your division, and then you're going to have 4 teams, or when it turns out, 4 teams, 1 in each division, will be representing that division into the semifinals for a championship. This is how outrageously outside the box the National Hockey League has become, and I absolutely love this.
I mean, it'd be like the NFL putting the Bills, Giants, and Jets in the same division, or the Bengals playing the Bears, a couple extra times a year. It's not a matchup you'd see, but this year it's going to happen. And like you say, it would throw it out the window. Same thing in baseball. Now all of a sudden you could have a Dodgers-Angels rivalry all season long. Things that just weren't there before. San Francisco, Oakland. Just you think of the possibilities. Well, that's exactly what the NHL's done. They've just tried to geographically, and they did make one switch. They flip-flopped St. Louis and Minnesota for competitive balance, which I think was a smart move because I do think it was needed. But you know what? It's going to be a lot of fun this year, and the NHL also is doing it in a way. Speaking of baseball, Ron, where you're going to see teams play each other almost like mini playoffs. They're going to play each other 4 times in a row. It'll be 2 at home, 2 on the road. Depending on travel schedules and what have you. And these teams don't really have a lot of breaks in their schedule. It's going to be, pretty much flat out to the end of the regular season. I know we're going to deal with some COVID issues. That's plain to see. Any league that has traveled has had to deal with it. So, it's just how they handle it when it happens, and if it happens to get bad. Hopefully it doesn't, but this is about the best possible plan you could conceive in order to play as much of a season as you can and then have a full playoffs.
Okay, now here's the million-dollar question. You've got 8 teams in the West. You have 8 teams in the Central. You have 8 teams in the East. No problem. Until you get to the Canadian division where there's only 7 teams. How do we go about having a same regular season for teams in the East and Central and West in terms of the same amount of games played with the Canadian teams? How are they going about the scheduling to make sure everyone is at the same number?
So what they'll end up doing in order to make the math divide evenly is it's as you pointed out. So in an 8-team division, you have 7 opponents. So you play each of those 7 opponents 8 times, boom, 56. Okay. So now you're going to end up with playing 6 if you're in the Canadian division 8 times. That's 48. Well, now you need to make up an additional chunk of games in there. So what they're going to do, Ron, is they're going to basically distribute the games, and I believe it's going to be done regionally. So you may see, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, who are in that kind of part of the country, play each other a few extra times. Same thing with and I think Winnipeg is going to have to kind of be the middleman here because essentially Winnipeg is above Minnesota just for visual sake. Then you've got there's 3 teams on the West, 3 teams on the East, and that one team, Winnipeg, in the middle. But that's what they're going to do. They're going to kind of fill it out, I guess you would say, that way so that everybody reaches a nice round number. Now, look, best laid plans, who knows if that's actually how many games everyone's going to actually finish with. But we've seen how different leagues handle it. Some leagues postpone things until they can play them. But I don't think the NHL can pull it off like the NFL because there's 1 game a week. They can't push it back several days. We may just end up with a setup, Ron, where some teams end up finishing with 54 games or 53 games, and then you have to go by win percentage.
Okay, now, the obviously in a perfect world, knock on wood, hockey gods, small G are listening to us. 56 games, that's what we want, and everything goes well. For those that are not aware of the playoffs, 4 teams in each division. Am I correct in this, Tom?
Yes, and you have to play your way out of your division. So 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 in the division, you end up with a division winner. Here's the fun part. 1 through 4, it no longer matters because there's no conferences this year. There's just divisions. Everybody gets reseeded 1 through 4 according to their regular season finishing total. So you could have an Eastern team playing a Western team to get to the Stanley Cup final. And then in the Cup final, you could have 2 Western teams, 2 Eastern teams, or an Eastern and a Western team. It's wide open. You could have Boston play Tampa Bay for the Stanley Cup this year, which is not something you could ever have in any other year.
Now, here's where you are rolling the dice and you're hoping that everything is going to be ecstatic for the hockey fans. But then when you get to the Stanley Cup championship and you see, we're going to have 2 teams in the East. Well, 90% of the land, not necessarily the population, but 90% of the land is going to be, I don't give a crap about this. My team's not in this. My region's not in this. These are 2 teams that are on the East Coast. I'm over here on the West Coast. I don't care about this crap. Obviously, the National Hockey League office is in Toronto. They want to have a team from the East versus a team from the West, or a Canadian team versus an American team. They want to have this, so you have all kinds of interest.
Sure, and but you could end up with Tampa Bay and Las Vegas playing each other in the Cup final this year, and then somebody will say, "Well, that's 2 quote unquote Southern teams. Who cares?" It's just somebody's always going to complain, Ron. That's the way I look at it. It's just I hope the best teams that provide the most exciting hockey are in the final this year. That's what I want to watch. I want to watch 2 teams just go at it, and that's why I love the playoffs, because there's no tomorrow, and you have to win best of 7 series 4 times to win the Stanley Cup. It's crazy. It's a gauntlet, but it's fantastic to watch.
Well, unfortunately, we'll be without who I consider to be the Vin Scully of hockey broadcasts, and that's Doc Emrick. He hung it up after the last Stanley Cup. And clearly, for anyone that has ever watched hockey on NBC, Doc Emrick is hockey. And NBC has a large hole to fill with Doc Emrick not being there. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to get it done, but clearly, if anyone's watching hockey on American television, it's not going to be the same because Doc Emrick's not there.
Yeah, it will be different. And John Forsland and Brian Burke and Kenny Albert are going to be the three main commentators this year. And I think Kenny Albert appears to be kind of the lead guy. It'll be different. Doc has been a national voice for the game for 20 years, and, a lot of people are very used to hearing him. And it's going to be a different setup. And, nobody prepared for a game like Doc Emrick. It's one of the reasons why I prepared so diligently when I would do games is just, you see what guys like him are able to do. The reason, Ron, that, and Vin Scully is another one, he knew the stories, he knew the players behind the players, he knew, but he did all that because he did his research, he did his homework, he prepared, and that's what makes you a great broadcaster. And Doc was the same way. He just was so deep in his preparation that it was easy for him to tell stories because he had them all. He knew what they were, and that is something, sadly, I think that really misses. Everybody wants to call the game, but there's space between the plays that, that's where you really make your mark.
As one famous broadcaster once told me, put some meat on those bones, kid. And that's the stories in between the pause on the play-by-play. And it bothers the hell out of me when I hear kids have dead air instead of putting the meat on the bones. Whether it be statistically driven or some other facet, you have got to have substance in your game instead of dead air. Yeah, and that's not to say there are times when it's okay to let the crowd carry a moment. Within a game when something enormous has happened, or just when something where the crowd can tell the story. That's not what we're talking about here, to be clear. What we're talking about here is when you have a break between the 2-1 pitch and the 2-2 pitch, and the pitcher's out there fiddling with his cap, you got time. You have time to drop something in here, or before a neutral zone face-off after an offside, you have time to really make the broadcast a quality broadcast, and that's what the greats do. All right, let's talk about the Eastern Division. The Penguins, they made some changes in the offseason. Now, they didn't go crazy with some of their changes, but they made enough changes where this is going to go one of two ways. Either the Penguins are going to be a really good 1 or 2 in the Eastern Division, or this is going to implode to where they are nowhere near the top 4, and they're not even close to sniffing a playoff spot. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, isn't it, for the Penguins? They, especially in goal, they're taking a chance. They have decided to go with a youth movement and go with Tristan Jarry. They've traded Matt Murray away to Ottawa. They still have that Crosby, Malkin, Letang core, which is aging. The window's closing on these guys, so the impetus is there to win now. Pittsburgh's got some pretty good young players, but Ron, you simply can't keep everyone together forever on a team. Financially, it's impossible, and just that's the way it goes, especially with Pittsburgh having won a few cups. Some guys win their cup and then say, I'm going to go chase my payday. So it's going to be, and especially in this division, like I said, Philly's good. Rangers are good. Boston is good. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to get out of Buffalo, but it's going to be entertaining. I know that. But Washington is another one. They're still going to be good. And you talk about another team with an aging core and a closing window. The Capitals are going to have urgency, too. Only 4 teams are going to make it in this division. The only team I can tell you with certainty that is not making the playoffs is New Jersey.
outside, the Islanders are tremendous. I expect them to be vying for the top of the division. So, I mean, you're right. It's tough. This is a tough division. And again, they did keep the core together. Okay, that's fantastic. It's just going to be so tough to get through the season. And the other thing is, too, Ron, is let's not kid ourselves. We know this is an angry division. These teams know each other. There's animosity. They're going to go after each other. As my former color partner, Stu Grimson, would say, hammer and tong. They will go after one another. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I'm so excited to see all of the battles, all the rivalries, and that's something that we don't often talk about. But, boy, there's going to be just so much going on every single game, and it's going to be a blast.
Well, and here's the other thing, the other element of the game in which it's always been split, although there is a small majority now that don't particularly care for the extracurricular activities, i.e. the gloves dropping and guys beating the hell out of each other and getting a 5-minute major. That has started to turn where there are more people now that don't like fighting. Well, you get these teams all together in the same division, and oh, by the way, they're going to play each other 8 times. You've just reinstituted and revigorated the dropping of the gloves and 2 guys beating the hell out of each other. And as someone who likes to see the policing of the National Hockey League in that form, I look forward to this.
You're not wrong. It is going to be a especially in meetings 6, 7, and 8, when teams are just absolutely tired of one another and they don't want to see each other anymore. We see in the playoffs, it doesn't take too long to get these rivalries heated up. Imagine what's going to happen when you play the same team, even if it's a regular season, for the 3rd and 4th time in a row. If a guy delivers what's seen as a cheap hit in game 1, guess what? He's got a target on his back for the rest of game 1 and all the way through the 4th game of that week. So, and it happens a few times where teams do play each other that many times in a row, but everybody plays at least back-to-backs for the most part this year. There's rare occasions where there's a one-off, but it doesn't happen very often.
It's going to be an awful lot of fun. And obviously, in the Eastern Division, you grew up in the Buffalo area. I've got family that still live in Buffalo. Pittsburgh, this is a fun team. I love watching the Penguins play. The New York Rangers, the Islanders, they're both going to be somewhat competitive. The Capitals, like the Penguins, they're aging, and they got Ovechkin, and obviously Pittsburgh and Washington, when they play each other, one of the goons from the Penguins will go after Ovechkin. One of the goons from the Capitals will go after Crosby, and these 2 teams will be spilling blood during the course of their 8 meetings. There's no 2 ways about it. And, oh, by the way, Philadelphia and Boston, they know each other, and these 2 teams will beat the hell out of each other. Now, the one thing that I think is going to be interesting, Zdeno Chara leaves Boston, goes to Washington. Oh, they're in the same division. You don't think the big fella's going to want to have a little bit of fun with his former teammates? The East is going to be ugly this year.
It is, but it's the division I will find myself watching the most, as you allude to, for all of those reasons and more, because it's going to be wildly entertaining. But, the other thing, Ron, that I'm interested in seeing this year, especially in a division like the Central or like the North Division, which is the Canadian division, we're going to see teams that traditionally don't play this often develop rivalries this year. It's going to happen. You could have a Tampa Bay-Nashville rivalry come out of nowhere. You could have, and there's no rivalry there, right? With, Detroit having been in the West before, and Detroit-Chicago in the same division now, and Columbus used to be Nashville's chief rivalry because they both came into the league at the same time. So maybe even renewing some very old acquaintances. And just fun stuff to see. There's so many cool things about the way the NHL did it this year, and it will absolutely stoke interest.
All right, the Central Division, that's the division the Blue Jackets are in. Is it a foregone conclusion, the 4 teams in no particular order, the Lightning, the Hurricanes, the Predators, and the Blue Jackets, Is it a foregone conclusion that these 4 teams are going to be the teams that emerge from the Central Division, or do the Blackhawks, Detroit, Florida, and Dallas have something that maybe they're capable of getting into the top 4?
Well, Dallas surprised me going all the way to the Cup final last year, and now this year they're again without Ben Bishop, who's injured. Tyler Seguin is injured. He had surgery on a torn labrum. He'll be out for a while. I don't even know if he'll be able to make it back for playoffs or not. But Dallas there was something about them. They didn't score a lot of goals. They were getting, incredible goaltending from a 34-year-old goaltender who'd basically been a cast-off most of his career. A lot of people are saying, well, Dallas just kind of caught lightning in a bottle, and they're writing Dallas off for this year. I don't think you can write Dallas off that fast. I do think there's a lot of talent on that Stars team. I don't think last year was a fluke. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion they're in the playoffs this year, although personally I think they'll make it. But I think Columbus is a playoff team in that division. Detroit, no. Chicago, no. There's just too much going on there with their rebuilds. I actually think, Ron, out of that group you mentioned, Nashville could slide out because they have been a disappointment for several years now, where you look at Nashville and you think, man, shouldn't they be doing better, especially after their trip to the Cup final against Pittsburgh. It seemed like they had the ingredients to stick around and make a couple more deep runs, and it just really hasn't materialized for them, especially in the last couple of years. I would call their exits disappointing. So, I think maybe Nashville is a team that perhaps doesn't make it out of that group, but that's not a foregone conclusion whatsoever. And that's why it's going to be fun to play all these games and see who is left standing.
If you're a Penguin fan, you look at the Chicago Blackhawks, and there's a parallel between the two, even though the Penguins are still playing some decent hockey right now. They're not championship caliber anymore. But back in about 10 years ago, the Chicago Blackhawks won a couple of Stanley Cups, and they paid for it. I mean, they had a bunch of guys that commanded a bunch of money. They were butting up against the cap, and sooner or later you knew that the floor was going to give way. And it did about 3 years ago. And the Chicago Blackhawks have fallen to the basement. And if you didn't have a basement, they would have probably fallen a little bit further. They're strapped against the cap. They got guys that are aging that they can't get rid of because of their salary situation, i.e. Patrick Kane is a big name that I would absolutely love for him to go back home to Buffalo. Unfortunately, the Sabres, they don't have the means. Pittsburgh could very well be looking at a Chicago Blackhawks fall very, very soon.
Yeah, and that's even though the Cups have been more recent for Pittsburgh on this particular run, it's still now 5 years ago that were 4 years ago, I guess, for the latest Cup. But it's you're right. You have to pay the piper eventually. And the Blackhawks mortgaged their future to win 3 Stanley Cups. And there was not a better time to be a Blackhawks hockey fan. It was exciting because you felt like you could win every year with that core. Now the Blackhawks actually are fortunate. Jonathan Toews is ill, and we don't know with what. And I really hope, I wish him the best in his recovery and figuring this out. But in a way, that's huge relief for the Blackhawks. They get to stash a lot of money on long-term IR, and that's going to be a tremendous value for them. But it's the same thing with the Penguins. Chris Letang, I actually favor trading Letang while he has value because I think you're going to see a precipitous drop in his play. I even would have entertained offers, and I'm not saying I would have pulled the trigger, but depending on what they were, I would have listened on Evgeny Malkin. I think Crosby is the only guy you can't trade. Just because of who he is and what he is to the city of Pittsburgh, I think he has to stay, and he will. But, everybody else, if teams are willing to talk to me about him, I'd be listening right now.
All right, give me some predictions. You said the Blue Jackets, you believe they're going to be a hockey or a playoff team in the Central Division. As far as I'm concerned, it's Tampa Bay's division to lose. I think they're the overwhelming favorite to come out of the Central Division. Blue Jackets make the playoffs. What say you with the Penguins? Are they in, and who should be the favorite in the East?
Well, Ron, the East is the toughest one, but my preseason prediction, I have the Penguins out. I think Philly is better. I think the Islanders are better. Boston is better, although aging. But Pittsburgh, and that's the thing, is you can't say for sure that Pittsburgh's going to be down and stay down because they have so much talent. Again, this is why it's so hard to predict. I just think those teams are going to make it. I think Washington has a good young goaltender if he stays healthy and doesn't wreck his ATV in Ilya Samsonov. I really think Washington will push through in that division. I worry about Boston. And if I can flip-flop the Penguins in, the team I take out, believe it or not, is Boston, because Boston's defense is not very good. They lost Chara, but they also lost Torrey Krug. Everything falls on Charlie McAvoy, who's 23 years old. And, he's played a couple seasons, but that's an awful heavy load for that young player to shoulder. So there's a lot of things going on. Carolina is another team that I think is very good, and this is so difficult to pick. But, yeah, I think Pittsburgh misses this year unless Boston completely falls apart, which could happen.
I'd love to have the Sabres in the top four, but it's not happening. I mean, unless Taylor Hall plays out of his mind, Jack Eichel plays pissed off all year long, and they get great goaltending. And Skinner has to stop pouting and accept the third or fourth line and lead that line. I can't see the Sabres being in the top four. I'd love to see it, but I can't see it.
I think that'll be one of the best lines in hockey. I think that Hall-Eichel combo will be electric and fun to watch every night. But the goaltending's not there. It's just not for the Sabres. Even if they go with a youth movement, but I just don't think they have it. And unfortunately, that is such an important part of today's game. And Ron, here's the other thing, the teams that are going to do well and that will go deep in the playoffs are going to have two quality goaltenders. So, if Boston makes a run, it'll be because of goaltending. Same thing with Vegas. They've got two starting quality goaltenders. Montreal, if they make a run in the Canadian division, it's because they have three excellent goaltenders. So, that's the reality of today's game is if you're able to alternate those guys and keep them fresh, then that's the teams that I look for to have the most success.
All right, give me your division winners.
Okay, I think Vegas wins in the West Division. The Central is Tampa. I actually am going to go ahead and pick the Flyers in the East, which I know is a bit of a surprise, but I really like where Philly is, and I like their young goaltender, Carter Hart. And then I think Toronto is the Canadian Division winner.
Okay, Toronto normally gags, so I'm going with Vancouver. Because the JT Miller factor, and our studios are in the same town JT grew up in East Palestine, Ohio. So I'm going to go Vancouver. I'm with you on Philadelphia. I hate the Flyers, but that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm with you on the Lightning. I'm going to go Colorado with the fourth team.
Pick.
I'm going to go Colorado. Help me out on this. The kid that they got from Winnipeg. He used to play for the Youngstown Phantoms. Brandon Saad?
Yeah, Brandon Saad.
Yeah, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to put up some decent numbers in Colorado, and I love the Avalanche, their team, and they were so close last year. I think they get into the Final Four.
Ron, not a bad pick. I like it. And Colorado is a very, very good team. And they have so much talent. You want to talk about a team that is stacked defensively and offensively? It's Colorado. My question will be, Vegas is really good, really deep. Colorado is really good, really deep. I could say that about 3 or 4 teams in the West. And same thing in the East. When these teams are done pounding on each other all year long, 8 games at a time, who's going to still be standing? And injuries will play a large part in it, but someone's got to be left after the dust settles. I'm just wondering who it's going to be. It's going to be a war of attrition.
Well, and depending on how they set this up, who are the Canadians playing? Are they playing the East? Or are they playing the West? Or is the East playing the Central in the semifinals? I don't know how they're setting this thing up, but
the whole thing reseeds 1 through 4.
Okay.
So it just depends on your regular season point total.
Gotcha. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to take Vancouver in the Cup. I am on my yearly soapbox of putting a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup, and Vancouver is my team. I'm going to go the Vancouver Canucks, and I'm going to have them facing the Philadelphia Flyers in the Stanley Cup.
Okay, it's not a bad pick. Not a bad pick. I think Vancouver has a good goaltending tandem, as I alluded to earlier. They've got a youngster in Thatcher Demko and former Capitals goalie Braden Holtby. I think they'll be good. I'm going to pick for my Cup. I'm going Tampa and Vegas, and I'm going to go ahead and say this is the year Vegas wins it.
There you go. All right, brother. Always a pleasure, and yeah, we'll have some fun with some hockey talk during the course of the year. By the way, speaking of hockey talk, are you still doing your hockey talk?
We just kicked it all back off. Talking Puck TV, Sunday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern on both Twitch and YouTube. I also have a podcast I do 3 times a week, also called Talking Puck. And Ron, also, since I'm living out here in the West, I've picked up another gig. I'm now the editor-in-chief of VegasHockeyNow.com, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so high on Vegas. I'm watching them every day right now. So, yeah, if anybody wants to visit VegasHockeyNow.com. But I'm looking at absolutely everything going on in the NHL, and I'm just excited. I think it's going to be a great year. And, yeah, if folks can join us on Sunday nights at 9, it's me and another former NHL voice, Mike Haynes of the Colorado Avalanche. So you got 2 former NHL play-by-play guys talking hockey on Sunday and just having a great time.
I knew there was a reason why you were on the Vegas bandwagon. I knew there had to have been a reason.
All right, you want me to drop the biggest fantasy tip of the year? People are not ready for this. Chandler Stevenson has been moved up to center Vegas' top line between Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone. Chandler Stevenson, who nobody's ever heard of, is going to have a monster year. So pick him up in your fantasy league.
There you go. There you go. And I look forward to doing some baseball with you as well. Little known fact, Callahan is a huge baseball guy and like me, a baseball guru. So it'll be a lot of fun this year.
Can't wait, buddy. I can't wait.
All right, brother. Always a pleasure. Look forward to talking with you soon.
It is. Take care, Ron.
See ya. Tom Callahan joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Take a time out. Be back with more. Stick around.
WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. With our combined 70 years experience and comprehensive wealth strategy, we assist our clients attain their goals. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services, or visit WRSWealthAdvisors.com. Good luck, athletes.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy efficient experts.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Points presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the little Stanley Cup and hockey preview with our hockey guru, Tom Callahan. All right, plenty of basketball on the network tonight. Here we go. First and foremost, we're going to have some swimming, a triangular meet between Boardman, Massillon, Washington, and Massillon Perry. Now, those three schools will get together and do a triangular swimming meet. That will start at 5 p.m. on the network. Here's some basketball for everyone tonight. All of these games have a 7 o'clock varsity basketball start time, which means the JV games will get underway at 5:30, and the varsity games will start somewhere around 7 o'clock. Could be a couple minutes before, could be right at 7, could be a couple of minutes after. It depends on how quickly or how slowly the JV game goes. Here's your varsity matchups tonight on the hardwood. Boys basketball, Canfield visits Austintown. Cheney will go to Cardinal Mooney High School to take on the Cardinal Mooney Cardinals. That's going to be a sneaky good basketball game tonight. Newton Falls is at Champion. Columbiana welcomes Southern. Liberty is at Crestview. Indian Creek will travel northbound to East Liverpool to take on the Potters from the iconic Potter Fieldhouse. Love that place. Niles is at Hubbard. East Palestine is at Lisbon. Springfield will journey to McDonald. That's going to be a fun basketball game tonight. Lakeview will travel south down 46 to take on South Range. Poland goes to the other iconic place in the Mahoning Valley, the iconic Struthers Fieldhouse. Poland at Struthers. Warren Harding will visit Ursuline as they'll travel to Wick Avenue in Youngstown to take on the Ursuline Irish. That is a great place to watch a game. The Ursuline High School Gymnasium. Nice place to watch a basketball game. United will travel to Valley Christian, and Salem will travel to their hated rival. They go to Beloit as they take on the West Branch Warriors. And I've said this a time or two. It might be the single most underrated rivalry in all of YSN country. Salem and West Branch. Woo, man, it's a good rivalry. Those two schools do not like each other. Salem goes to Beloit tonight to take on West Branch. And again, all of the basketball games get going, varsity games, little before or at or maybe a little after 7 o'clock. All of the 7 o'clock varsity starts are scheduled starts. The JV games are at 5:30. You should know the drill by now. Depending on how fast the JV game is, that's how quick or how slow the varsity game is going to be. Somewhere around 7 o'clock, we got all kinds of basketball on the network tonight. And then keep in mind, A triangular swim meet. Boardman will face Massillon Washington and Massillon Perry. So these three teams will have a triangular swim meet. I believe this is going to be at Youngstown State, if I'm not mistaken, in the natatorium at Youngstown State. We'll take another timeout, be back with more. It is a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on ysnlive.com.
21 News.
Let's get right to our top story tonight.
More experienced reporters
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
telling more local stories
We'll look at efforts
Boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley.
afternoon. We are here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect
It's important for everyone. No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County
Before
Court.
they become life-threatening.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Hi, this is Jim Myers with Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. With you for a few more minutes, and then DJ and the fellas will have the Power Hour, taking you through the 3 o'clock hour. Again, a reminder, yours truly, Larry Scragg. We will be at Crestview Rebels Gymnasium tonight as the Crestview boys will be taking on the Liberty Leopards in a MVAC gray tier matchup from Rebels Gymnasium. That'll be game 2 of 5 games that will be taking place during the course of this week from Rebels Gym. Last night we had the Crestview Liberty girls game. We'll have the Crestview Liberty boys game tonight. Thursday, the Brookfield girls will play the Crestview girls. Friday night, the Crestview boys will play the Brookfield boys. And then Saturday, the Crestview girls will be playing Western Reserve in a non-conference matchup. So wall-to-wall basketball, 5 games for me and Larry on the network involving Crestview Rebels, and that should be an awful lot of fun. I want everyone to do me a favor, if you are so inclined. A friend of the show, he's our horse racing guy, and he's our guy that likes to talk some SEC football. Seabass tested positive for COVID yesterday, and right now everything is good. There are no really bad issues with him. He tested positive for COVID yesterday. He's not the only person that is tested positive. My buddy in crime, who you haven't seen in over a week, Anthony Hartwig, tested positive, and he's been down for a little bit, and we're hopefully going to get him back and going here pretty soon. But the virus has certainly taken its toll on an awful lot of people, and it certainly has taken a toll here, not just within the YSN confines, but a couple of friends of the show have been suffering from this as well, and certainly fingers crossed, and all thoughts and prayers to everyone involved with this horrible virus. It seems like we're hopefully, knock on wood, on the starting to get close to the other side of this, hopefully. But yeah, it's just it's reared its ugly head way too many times. Like that is for certain. Tomorrow on the show, we'll continue to talk some local sports, and if you're so inclined to talk about the Browns' chances, if you're a Browns fan, first of all, you got to be smiling because your team is in the playoffs, and you won a playoff game, which is something that the Browns hadn't done in almost 30 years. 94 was the last year they won a playoff game. So you got to be smiling like a butcher's dog right now. It's been 27 years since the Browns have actually won a playoff game, and it's actually been 52 years since they won a road playoff game. Last time they won a road playoff game, you got to go back to the 1969 season when the Browns beat the Cowboys in the divisional NFL playoffs. The last year the NFL was separate from the AFL. And then in 1970, the AFL became the NFC. I'm sorry, the AFL became the AFC. The NFL became the NFC. And then the two teams, two champions from each conference played in the Super Bowl, starting in Super Bowl V. But the first four Super Bowls was strictly the American Football League, which was a separate entity from the National Football League. So the last time the Browns won a road playoff game, you got to go all the way back to 1969. I was 5 years old. The Browns beat the Cowboys and then lost the next week against the Minnesota Vikings. And then the Vikings went to Super Bowl IV and lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the last Super Bowl between two separate leagues, the American Football League and the National Football League. So there you go. That was a long, long time ago, but that was the last time the Browns won a road playoff game. It's been a long time. Anyway, Browns are in Kansas City this week, and call me crazy, I think the Browns have a decent chance. It's not a great chance. Obviously not a great chance. I mean, in the perfect world, Buffalo's hosting Cleveland in the AFC Championship game. It's in a perfect world. Now, having said that, there's a chance that both teams are going to lose, and it's Baltimore taking on Kansas City for the AFC Championship at Arrowhead. I think there's a better than average chance Kansas City is in the AFC Championship game, but Cleveland does have a shot. They have a shot. We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. We got plenty of boys basketball to be talking about tomorrow as well. We'll put the bow on this program coming up after this timeout. It's a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Back in a bit.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the four words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years. I think whenever we go there, whatever car we're looking for, they have tremendous inventory.
If you're looking for people who care about you, Greenwood is the place to go.
You know, it's like family there. The girls know me in service. It's Miss Kim in the Tahoe.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Local teams are heating up the hardwoods, and you can keep up with all the action on and off the court with Five Guys Hoop News all season long on 21 Sports.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Right now is a great time to get more for your trade-in at Tri-State Ford and drive home in a new or pre-owned vehicle. Choose from our great selection of new Ford models or pre-owned vehicles. Plus, get the Tri-State Ford Advantage, including a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty and more. At Tri-State Ford, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade, but you don't have to purchase one of ours to sell us yours.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Thanks a lot for tuning in today to the Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Many, many thanks to Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor Doug Chapin. Tom Callahan talking pucks. Many thanks to him as well. DJ and the boys is going to give you Power Hour coming up in a couple of minutes. We will talk tomorrow, noon to 3, Running Points on